it's another Friday. It's time for the Chimney and Fireplace Success Network. No matter if you're joining us live or on the replay, we want to welcome you aboard, and we're happy you're here. It's really an honor, it's a pleasure, and it's a privilege to speak to our listeners every week like this, to get out in front of you. And every week we try to come up with either a guest or a topic that we think is very, very timely. So this week I sent out to Brandy and Josh and Cheryl that this week the topic was going to be on waste in the business. Because in my line of work, where I go out and visit companies, I do analysis of companies, I observe their operations. This is what I see. I see significant waste happening in many businesses. Often, when it's costed out, it can run 10, 15, and even 20% of the gross income of the company. Now, here's the crazy thing. Everybody is wanting to sell more. If you look, everybody out here, they're always talking about selling more. And we're talking about scaling the company. But what we're concerned about is those dollar bills that are going right between your fingers and going away. So I've asked each of our participants here today to come up with what do they see as the cost of waste in companies and what's causing it. So you're going to get four different opinions here today. That's right, four different opinions of different things that we see from our experience. Okay, so when you get down to it, one of the things that I was able to do in my life is a very dear friend of mine passed away about last year, and his name was Charlie Quayle. But I knew Charlie for many, many years, and I watched Charlie and I learned from Charlie because Charlie was looking at lean processes. Possibly you've read articles that I've written with Charlie, about Charlie, and other things. In fact, I'm working on a new book right now about waste, and I'm going to feature a lot of what I learned from Charlie in that. But I can still remember the time that I walked into Charlie Quayle's office and he was sitting there. And on the wall, he had a 4x8 sheet of white styrofoam. Didn't have a flip chart. I don't know why he was using styrofoam for this, but he was drawing. And what he had was he had all these boxes. So he had a line that would go from one box to the next box to the next box. And I said, Charlie, what in the world are you doing? He said, Jerry, that's the flow of information in our office. And what we found out is the leading cause of waste is the transfer of information. In other words, the office takes the order and the information isn't properly processed. Or someone in the field sells something and the order is not properly processed. And when it's time to do the job, what do you got? You don't have the materials there. And this seems to be happening over and over and over again. So where it comes down to is developing the systems in the business to where you don't have this, where it replicates itself. This is one of my sayings. Making a mistake is a human error. Making the mistake twice, to be honest with you, is pure stupidity. I don't know how else to say it. Because what you've got to do, you got to open your eyes up to what are the problems that are out there. And one of the things I've also said, and Brandy could probably repeat this, there's three reasons for every mistake. It's number one, you don't have a system. Number two, the system you have is wrong. Or number three, someone simply did not follow the system or the process. And it was really amazing. If you go to Tommy Mello's operation, the A1 Garage Doors, he has made posters and put all over that place that has that quote all over it. In fact, one of my clients was walking through there during vertical track. He said, man, he's got you quoted all over this place. I said, yep, and it makes you feel really, really good. So, Josh, let's start with you this morning. Where do you see the biggest waste factor, and what can people do to stop this waste that's flowing through their fingers?
Well, is really for one of the things we do is just making sure everyone's prepared for to do their job. One of the biggest changes we made is we made ourselves a mini supply house at the store. So I've got, unfortunately, $20,000-$30,000 worth of gas fittings because supply house never seems to have what we need that day. One day I spent 4 hours trying to track down some flare elbows, and I was like, well, this is ridiculous. So for me, it was having everybody prepared. So having cans of spray paint, can of spray paint becomes a $100 can of spray paint from $8 pretty quickly, along with nuts, the right fasteners. We started surveying what fasteners we needed, and we built up a huge inventory of fasteners. So the guys now have little Plano tackle boxes. And I tell you what, when you need a 10-cent nut to put a door back on, I mean, oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah. One of my clients that I worked with for a number of years, Chuck Roydhouse. And Chuck used to run the cost of his field rescues. And what a field rescue was, where somebody was on the job site and they needed something, and what it costs to actually go take that person that part. And it might be something as simple as a tube of silicone. And he said, Jerry, a tube of silicone can cost you $100 to $200. I said, really? Tell me why. He said, because when you figure the cost factor to take it out to a job site, that's what it's costing. So, Josh, what you're saying is one of the things is to be prepared, and by using checklist forms to make sure, that's a way to conquer this waste. Did I hear you correctly?
Yeah. I mean, we have checklists for every division, and sometimes Google Forms is a very easy one to do. That's what we use. For more advanced ones, I have Jot Forms. But Google Forms, if you just need a simple checklist, you can throw a picture in there, and you guys can go. And I've got one for the general tool bag, the fasteners box, the fittings boxes. It's an easy way to do inventory quickly.
And you developed this because you got tired of getting frustrated because your anger management's not the best, right?
It's gotten better with age. It's gotten a lot better.
It's gotten a lot better, but you did this to eradicate the pain you were going through. Let's get real. Okay. So anyway, Brandy, what do you see? You're dealing with office staff, so you're dealing with a lot of things there. And in my mind, I'm thinking duplication of efforts, other things like that. What do you see out there? What's your experience of where people are having waste?
Yeah, I came up with quite a few. So I'll just start with one. So one of the first ones is in onboarding. So I think waste really can just be boiled down to how we eliminate it is by having those systems and processes in place. So if we don't have a formal onboarding in place, if we don't have a calendar telling that new person, this is what you're going to be training on this day, that day, and we're just flying by the seat of our pants, and just as they come in each day, we're just kind of making things up as we go along, and okay, you're just going to watch me today, it's going to take twice as long to train that person.
Yeah, that's good. Keep going. I wanted to pick up something here I was going to use today. I had to get my buddy. If you remember his guy, Brandy, Chucky?
I have Chucky too.
That's it. And the whole purpose of Chucky was to remind people, if you do the same thing over and over again and expect different results, guess what? It's not going to happen. So that's where you see into the onboarding process, right?
Yep, that's one of them.
Right, that's one of them. Carol, what about you? Your mic's off. Mic's off.
I said I'm kind of like Brandy. I made a way too long list here, but what I deal with more in here is the hiring and the keeping of people, and the amount of time that from the time that you've made contact and trying to get them through the resume, and then you don't contact them back to set up an appointment to come in, and you lose them. I've had people that'll wait 3 and 4 weeks before they'll call a good lead. Well, by that time, you've needed a job. So you've wasted the amount of time that you could have had someone in there doing the job that you're having to do at that time. And it works well. And then also, I'm going to flip it to the other side, customers not responding to them. It's the response time and the delays that if you don't respond quickly, you're going to lose the customer, you're going to upset them, or they're just going to assume you don't care and they're going to move to the next person.
Got you covered. Understand. So you see a big waste happening in the hiring process because people are spending their money. They're paying you to interview these people. They're paying you to go through. You may be doing disc assessment or anything else. And then the problem is the owner, the manager, he's sitting on these people where by the time we call them back, we've lost this good person.
Yeah, and a lot of them, they say, well, I assumed that they wanted the job and they'd be there. Well, they were looking for a job with you. So if you don't get them one, they're going to get a job.
Yeah.
We've lost quite a few people to that.
Yeah. So let's go back to what I said as the 3 reasons for a mistake, which are number 1, there is no SOP, no standard operating procedure. Number 2, the SOP is wrong. Or number 3, people simply did not follow the SOP. And Josh, one of the things that you've learned and you have put together is SOPs to give your people guidance in the field. How important is this that when the guy is in the field or in a showroom or on the phone, that they have this resource that they can pull up right in front of them from a cloud-based information system, what we call a digital knowledge base? How important is this?
Well, it eliminates me personally from having to take phone calls. Even we had one this week. It was like, well, do we how do we charge for parts with this vendor? And I'm like, there's an SOP there for that. Like, you shouldn't be calling me for this. Oh my God, there's so many ways. Like I said, the checklists are up on the cloud. The SOPs are on the cloud. I mean, I just have regular meetings about, we had some losses with a real estate customer because we didn't follow procedures. And with real estate for us, it's always payment up front, period. Don't care if you're getting an escrow check or whatever. It's always payment up front because we've had people who, especially like investment properties, they're like, oh, well, I never agreed to that, such and such. And man, that just ticks me off.
Yeah, I understand. So what kind of a comfort feeling does that give you as a manager whenever somebody asks a question and you can say, well, what does your SOP say about that? How does that make you feel?
So it's pretty good because it instantly, my blood pressure doesn't raise. Like we had a guy getting a minor fender bender accident. It was the second one. So like there's everything. I mean, like I said, I've already been through this before and I've already got it written out. So for me, like we already know like what forms he's no longer allowed to drive. That puts his employment in danger. So for me, like it is what it is. There's no emotion to it. It's already written out. And especially when you've written this, usually when you have a calmer head, like usually about a week or 2 after the incident. And usually you can get input from the stakeholders in an incident like that. And then, you're doing it right. And that way, when it does happen, you're just like, okay, this is what was written out. This is what's agreed to.
Got you covered. Randy, let's take that same question over to your side. And, whenever you're working with office staff members, you're working with office managers, and you're also working with owners and that type of stuff, and sometimes you and I are working with the same clients. So how important is this to cut waste, to have these written processes where people can follow them? What's your consideration on that? What's your thoughts?
Well, I'm very black and white. Like, this is the rules, follow them or there's the door. And like, I like what Josh said, it takes the emotion out of it. There is no emotion. We don't have to get upset or anything. This is the policy. You knew about the policy. You violated the policy. This is the consequence. Because I think all too often we do let our emotions get involved and we get heated. And that just puts way too much stress on everybody. Stress on the business owner, stress on the employee.
Okay, I understand. So let me ask you this question. You've got a manager's training coming up. Isn't that just in a couple of weeks?
It is. 2 weeks, yeah.
What's the dates on that manager's meeting?
June 15th and 16th.
And you're going to be holding that there at your learning loft, which is upstairs at the Blues Brothers Kingdom, right?
Correct. Oh, I like that. Blues Brothers Kingdom. Or Chiefs Kingdom. I like Blues Brothers Kingdom. I'm going to steal that.
There you go. You can use that, So is this going to be part of the teaching process you're going to go through there with these people and how to do these SOPs?
Yes, we really go through a lot of how to do the SOPs in the CSR basics class. Really, in the office management class, it's a lot more about holding your people accountable to the SOPs.
Okay. And is that a problem? Do people have a problem holding their people accountable?
Absolutely.
Why do you
Absolutely.
think
Again,
that
they
is?
let their emotions get involved in it. They forget that they have the SOP. I guess we could add that one to your list of things. They forget that they have the SOP. um, and they simply don't follow it. They
Yeah.
make it up, and it's only good if you follow it.
Got you covered. So while we're talking about your class, if people send you an email to the address on the screen right now, you can get them still registered in and everything else there in Kansas City in just a couple weeks, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I also I have another little giveaway today. And it kind of ties in with waste is right now we are in the process of following up with customers in my own office who didn't have service last year, reaching out to them to see if they want service. For us, we found that we get the best response and we test everything here through text. And so I've actually created a 7-step process to the perfect follow-up. And so if anyone's listening and wants that, they can also email me and I would be happy to send them that 7-step process I created this week.
There's your freebie, and we'll give you another freebie on this, which is I wrote a book on SOPs a couple years ago, which is standardizing standard operating procedures. So you're seeing my email address up on the screen. And if you'll contact me, I'll be more than happy to send you a free copy, electronic, an ebook on that book. It's the #1 book that I've written that's sold on Amazon. We sell a lot of that particular book. And it's not a matter of selling books. It's a matter of sharing the information with you. So Cheryl, you own a manufacturing facility and you hardly ever go there. Am I correct?
Not near as much as I used to by far.
When's the last time you were in your office at IBD Outdoor Rooms?
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. So how are you able to do this where you're able to own and operate and manage a business remotely, which is not that far away, but you hardly ever go there anymore? In fact, I went up the other day to pick something up and your office door was locked. Like I asked Lori, I said, she keep her office door locked all the time now? And she said, no, I do. So they can't come in that way. So how do you do this?
Well, let's put it this way. I learned from you for #1. I have a 3-inch thick book of SOPs, and that's just the written ones. So, and we're slowly converting all those over to digital since we didn't do it many, many years ago. But I've got the SOPs are continually changing. That's the good. That's where we're working more at getting it over to digital is when we have to change them because a lot of the processes are so different, like you keep telling me.
Right. So what I've got sitting here beside me, I don't know if I've ever showed you this.
Josh is going to have a heart attack.
Well, this is the pre-digital days. So before we had digital capabilities, one of these books, which was the SOPs, there was one of these for every truck, one of these for every person in the company in the office. And all those sheets,
Paper back then.
yeah, all those sheets that are in there were all put in these little plastic sleeves. They had to be copied, had to put new ones in there all the time. So Josh, what's the advantage of digital over my trusty big notebook here? Why do I want a digital knowledge base?
Well, the second you update the main SOP, it's updated everywhere for one. It just doesn't live. I mean, you were probably above average if you were putting it in every truck and, everybody had their own copy because usually you ask and nobody knows where that book is at. Or maybe it's sitting on the owner or HR manager's desk. Like that's it.
No, what we did once a month is we pulled those notebooks. We would make everybody bring their notebooks in once a month. And the girl that worked in my office, her name was Leslie. And Cheryl, do you remember when I would have Leslie update those SOP books on a regular basis?
I definitely do. And now I look back thinking, and that was where our problem was a lot of times because we did it manually. But back then we didn't have Josh.
We didn't have a system. So Josh, again, use it. How How does somebody put together every time somebody starts SOPs, the problem is they never get them done. They throw their hands up. There's a few people that do. If we take Roy House, I'm sure he had everything right. I know it. I worked with him and I know it. But what's the advantage of digital? Why do I want to do it digitally this day?
Well, like I said, it's easy to pivot and it's very easy to share.
Okay.
Like I said, the guy was in the field the other day asking a question about pricing, and I said, I was on my cell phone right then there. I just took a screenshot of where it was on the site, on our wiki site, and I just circled it. Just grabbed the old stylus out, and I was like, point here, point here.
Got you covered. So I want to hold something up here a minute. This is fake money. This ain't real money, but these are $100 bills that I buy off Amazon, and I use these when I go out and do SWAT meetings. But the problem is, for every dollar of waste that you produce in the company, it can be a monumental amount of these, which is sales dollars to replace it. Because all the waste, and you have to come to this realization, comes off your bottom line. It comes from your net. Is there anywhere else to get the money from to cover waste, Brandy, that you can think of?
Not readily available, I guess is what I would say.
It's not. And again, that's where we go back. And everybody is so concerned about sales. And I'm a sales guy too. And I teach it. I don't call it sales training anymore. I call it believability training. But the whole thing is we have to produce income. And the income that we're producing, unless, we want to make sure it goes to the bottom line. If you don't go into the bottom line, then you're not running a profitable business. So you need to do these things. So Brandy, you came up one for office staff. What else do you see where there is waste from what you view?
Yeah, well, I try to kind of look at some of the things we don't always think about. I mean, everybody always thinks about the lean waste and Lean Six Sigma and going through those processes, motion, movement, etc. But I try to look at some things that we don't always think about. So one of those, for example, is underutilization of customer feedback. So your customers will let you know where the waste is or what's wrong in your business. But if you're not taking that feedback and making changes and implementing them, then that right there is waste.
So what you're saying is we got to be listening to their customers. That also takes surveying the customers. Mm-hmm. And you recently, just the other day, showed something that Microsoft had sent out, and and you pointed out there was a grammatical error in that particular thing. You remember that?
I do. It was very satisfied and very satisfied. There was no way they could lose.
Right. Satisfied, very satisfied. There was no non-satisfied in that whole listing. So again, taking the customer feedback of what you're hearing. A lot of times, what I tell people, a bad review can be very valuable because it can give you information about the company that you can use if you listen. So Cheryl, you got any others?
Yeah, I'm like Brandy. I'm trying to stay out of the same rabbit hole that we go down all the time. And one that stood out a lot was marketing without a strategy. Just hypothetically marketing out there, spending all your marketing dollars and not having, you're flying by the seat of your pants. You're not making any effort to make sure it's marketable. And you're also marketing to higher cost places where you can market to certain places for free. I mean, I like to have people put hiring ads onto their Facebook. It doesn't cost anything. And so it's a matter of where you market your company, you market for employees, any of that. But that's one that I see can be an extremely high cost.
That's it. And when you start looking at your gross, just think about a minute. If your business is grossing $1 million a year and you're sitting at a 15% waste factor on that, that's $150,000. $150,000 rolling out the door. And just think how upset you get when somebody wants a 5% raise, a 10% raise. But if you can take this money that's just dribbling through your fingertips and put it into the bottom line, it's amazing how it can change the financial outcome of the business. And in the year 2023, folks, we need to be real. The consumer has started to clamp down on their expenditures more and more. Brandy and I had an exchange over this morning, that customers are starting to question more and more their expenditures. So you got to be ready for this. So Josh, you got any more ideas?
Not right this second.
Okay. Well, let's go to this. Josh, I think you're a guy that can help people to develop this digital knowledge base, as I wanted to call it. So for people, for people to have a conversation with you about this, number one, we can definitely say it will reduce the waste. What's it going to cost somebody just to have a conversation with you about how this would work and how you would put it together?
Well, conversations are free.
There you go. So, if this is an interest, if you think this is something that can cut your waste, then definitely reach out to Josh, and Josh can possibly help you. Brandy, let's go to the same thing. Somebody sees they need help in their office. You're the person that can help them. I don't think there's anybody better that can help their offices become more productive. Does a conversation with you cost anything?
Nope, not to set up a first meeting.
It doesn't, to do it there. Cheryl, I think you have the answers for people in their hiring. Same question. It doesn't cost a dime for somebody to say, hey, Cheryl, can we have a call?
No, I mean, that's the free part of life.
That's the free part of life, okay? And myself, I help people. I do business analysis. I just did one last week. I got another one coming up week after next, where I go out and visit companies, and we see how we can help them move to where they want to take that company to. Not where I want to take it to, but where they want to take it to. So you want to have a conversation about that, reach out to us. So we're kind of going to end this today. Brandy, anything you want to add before we end today?
I mean, I had a ton more, so I'm just going to read a couple.
Yeah, read them on out.
Lack of employee engagement. So if your employees aren't engaged and active in the process, that's a huge waste to the company. We only want ones that are engaged. Lack of following with compliance and standards in our industry. Not tapping our unused talent, or not utilizing our current employees in the ways that they fit best within the company and where they're going to excel. Communication breakdowns is waste. We talk about that one a lot. And yeah, just yesterday I had a client reach out to me. It's actually a mutual client, Jerry, and she asked me, how does she calculate 1 minute and 19 seconds of waste? So we did the math on that. I was impressed she was calculating 1 minute and 19 seconds of waste, but that's a company that they really excel in tracking their waste. I will throw myself under the bus. Waste in our company is I don't like to go look for things. I just want to buy them again. And it can be something as simple as toilet paper or a stapler. And so not checking our supply closet before we just go and buy, that's a huge waste. Over processing. So in other words, making too many of something, too many widgets in our company, or buying too many of something rather than utilizing what we already have. That also gets into inventory. And I have some others, but I think those are the major ones that I came up with.
Okay, well, those are all good and excellent. And like I said, I remember one time you even told the story about how y'all had changed. Instead of buying paper towels on the roll, you were buying these that folded inside of each other and went into a dispenser, and how y'all have found that to be a money-saving means in the company. Am I correct?
Oh my gosh, you should see. But when we were using paper towel rolls, and I'm guilty of it too, people would take that and just like pull off like eight sheets of paper towels to dry their hands on. And yeah, now we use the C-fold that you have to pull out individually. So you have to work at it to pull 2 or 3 of them out. But again, this is the time of year in companies where we can look at waste, and we also need to be looking and seeing, where can we get the best deal on things? Are you shopping your insurance this time of year? Are you shopping your phone company this time of year? Seeing where we can cut out those pennies to save us.
Yeah. And as you were saying that, it was in my mind. As she started counting the sheets of toilet paper in the little square, how many squares does each person use? Have you got to that point yet?
Hey, you women I know use more. I think Josh had a thought on it too. Of it.
Well, I was going to say, like, just for like building materials, just don't use Lowe's. I started shopping my fastener prices around and little electrical things that I do. And, I save $3 a tube on silicone by not buying it at Lowe's, which is significant. When you buy a case, that's $36 on a case. And, I stock 12 different silicone adhesives between high temps, and then you have colors you need to have as well, between just all of them.
Yeah. So Cheryl, in manufacturing, you buy a lot of materials. Is there things you've learned in the manufacturing side to conserve cost?
Oh yeah, I love Define. I dicker prices. Lowe's, I can do a lot with them. We've got some really good guys there, and I've got prices coming that no one else seems to be getting. So we've been real lucky there. And I do it also with freight. Freight is our biggest loss lead, so we have to be careful and work with freight companies.
How do you shop out freight companies, Cheryl?
Well, we've got 9 we work with, and nine set and 3 logistic companies, and I'll bid 3 or 4, and I have no problem. In fact, I told one yesterday. He called. He said, "I see you're not using us like you were." I said, "No, I'm getting a better cost." And it's his whole deal was, if you can prove this to me, I'll match it or do better. I said, "There's no matching here. It's called do better." I sent it to him. He knocked $50 off of it. I mean, 50 here and 50 there. That adds up after a while.
Well, let's face it. We actually have the queen of negotiating prices sitting here right above you in the screen. So, Brandy, is that something you do, of negotiating prices?
Oh, heck yeah. I want the best deal. I mean, and like Cheryl just said, $50 here, $50 there. Yeah, it's paper towels or it's toilet paper, but it's the that will actually add up over time. Everybody wants to look at the big costs, and that's fine, but that's not what's really going to make a difference. It's all the little things.
It's all the little things. Well,
And
anyway,
let me add one here. One of the sayings that I've lived by for a long time: the man that counts the pennies will have more money than the guy that counts the dollars.
right. That's exactly right. That's something we learned many years ago. Well, listen, I hope this has passed along some helpful information to you that you can use in your own business. And we're here to help you. Reach out to us. You see each of our email addresses on the screen right in front of you right now. Hey, we'd love to have a conversation, see if we can help you out in order to make your company more productive and move it closer to your dreams. So, hey, we'll see you next week. And so and they don't even know it yet, I got a special guest coming up next week that they don't even know who's going to be on here next week, but I'll be introduced to him. But it's actually going to give a little background into why one of the guys we interviewed in our last year has moved forward. I think I have found his secret weapon, this gold nugget that's underneath him up there. Okay. So the guy comes out of Rochester, New York. So you're aware. So you kind of put it together from there. Okay. So appreciate you joining us. We'll see you next week with our next special guest on the next episode of the Chimney and Fireplace Success Network. And with that, we'll talk to you later. Have a